Amendment by Toth.
Chair recognizes Mr. Toth to explain his amendment.
Mr. Speaker, there is an amendment to the amendment.
Following amendment to the amendment, the clerk will read the amendment to the amendment.
Amendment to the amendment by Toth.
Chair recognizes Mr. Toth to explain his amendment to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this amendment simply creates a conduit for families with a terminally ill member. Creates a conduit to the Texas Medical Board, and I accepted a request by the author, Mr. Patty, to put in the word willful, because we want to make sure that in no way, shape, or form are we trying to entrap doctors into making a bad decision.
Mr. Toth offers up an amendment to the amendment.
Passage.
It's acceptable to the author. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. The amendment is amended. The Chair recognizes Mr. Raymond for the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this is an issue that a lot of us have worked on, and the reason that, in part, the amendment's being offered now is because this is a session where we weren't able to get hearings on these issues. And so the sunset process, Mr. Anchia and other friends of mine have many times offered many amendments to sunset bills. This is part of the process. A sunset bill gets here, and sometimes you offer an amendment. I'm guessing that Ms. Thompson, through her career, has offered amendments to sunset bills. She's nodding yes, and so I know it's true. Many of you have. It's okay. And I appreciate that Mr. Patty did not speak against this amendment. In fact, I'm really glad he didn't speak against this amendment. This is a very reasonable amendment. It's very reasonable. It's one that we should all vote for. And with all due respect to the Catholic Conference and bishops, I'm Catholic too, Mr. Anchia, have been all my life. But at times there is a bit of a conflict for Catholics, the bishops, because of the hospitals that they operate. They look at it, it seems to me at times, more as hospital administrators than they do as Catholic bishops, because if they took off the hospital administrator hat, I think they too would vote for this, because this is a very reasonable amendment. We have got to do a better job in our society, members, of respecting families who are dealing with very sensitive situations, and at times, doctors who are not attuned to what's going on and act as though they are God. Well, they're not God. They are not God. And all this amendment does is say, if you're not going to do your job in helping transfer a patient you don't want to take care of anymore, that you as a doctor thinks that patient ought to die, and you don't do your job to help transfer that patient somewhere else, something ought to be done about it. That's all that's being done here. I hope everybody votes for this. I respectfully ask everyone to please vote for the amendment.
Chair recognizes Mr. Navarez. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on, for, or against Mr. Toth's amendment as amended? Chair recognizes Mr. Toth to close.
Move passage.
Mr. Toth sends up an amendment as amended. Mr. Stickland has requested a record vote. Record vote is granted. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote no. The clerk will please ring the bell. Show Mr. Biederman voting aye. There being 91 ayes and 49 nays, the amendment is adopted.